The Thinking Atheist had another really good program the other day about Donald Trump's America. And they talked about how very unwilling some people are to accept reality. The anti science group, the people who only listen to Fox News and believe exactly what they want to believe. And they did a good job of tearing this apart. But then one of the guests on the show, an atheist, Andrew Torres, says this.
2000, right? Like George W. Bush got in 2000 on the basis of a Supreme Court decision. He lost the popular vote, and by all available evidence, he lost the Electoral College because a recount was stopped in Florida, and a statewide recount would have awarded those votes to Al Gore.
Okay, the problem with that statement is George Bush did not win because the Supreme Court stopped the recount. They had a media group that performed a months-long study and said what would have happened had the recount continued if they used this criteria for counting those butterfly ballots, if they'd used that criteria for counting these punch card ballots, the three-corner rule or the hanging chad rule or whatever. And in all of those scenarios, had the recount continued, Bush still would have won. It's true what he says that if a statewide recount had occurred, Gore would have won. The problem is there wasn't a statewide recount. Gore hadn't asked for a statewide recount. They were only recounting in some heavily Democratic areas that Gore had selected specifically because he expected to pick up a lot more votes by counting only the undervotes. If you counted overvotes and undervotes, you might get a different result, but that's not what the recount was doing. So here you have atheists saying, some people, I might add, very liberal atheists saying, some people just flat won't believe the facts, won't believe what the mainstream media tells you, only lives in their little echo chamber. All of these are true statements about the conservatives, but it's also true about certain liberals as well, including this one. I wish Gore had won in 2000. I think a lot of the problems in the Middle East would not be there had George Bush not been president and started the war in Iraq. And I don't know, but I don't think Gore would have led us into that war. But the bottom line is a months-long study with various media outlets showed that Bush would have won had the recount continued. For this guy to sit there and say otherwise, it just astounds me. And the thing is, nobody there in this program corrects him on this, and nobody in the comment section corrects him on this. Guys, we got to do better than that. If you want people to believe the mainstream media has to do a better job, because I've heard numerous people in Hollywood movies, characters say this on TV and in the news, people will say this, and I keep wondering if these people have ever, were they alive then? Were they around then? It's getting to where we're having a whole generation of people who weren't there, didn't watch the media at the time, but they're getting a rehash version of this 2000 election, and they're hearing bullshit. They have a nice coverage of this in the Wikipedia article on the 2000 election if you want the details. But as nice as it might have been for Bush to have lost that election, the recount, had it continued, still gave Bush the election by any vote counting method. Sorry, get your facts straight. You should do better. You're supposed to be a skeptic.